Williamsburg, before the L train hipsters moved in, was an actual working-class Brooklyn neighborhood where Polish and Puerto Rican and Hasidic families lived for generations, where rent was cheap because nobody from Manhattan wanted to live there, and where you could exist without being cool or trendy or whatever people call it now. And if you remember that version, you watched one of the fastest gentrifications in New York history destroy a neighborhood in less than 20 years. Tell me if you remember real Williamsburg, because this transformation was brutal. Bedford Avenue in the 90s was bodegas and laundromats and working-class families, not boutiques, selling $200 vintage T-shirts to kids whose parents pay their rent, and the L train was just how people got to work, not the pipeline that brought thousands of transplants to a neighborhood they'd never heard of until a magazine told them it was cool. The waterfront was industrial. Warehouses and factories and actual working people, not luxury condos with rooftop pools and Whole Foods, and you could walk along the water without tripping over brunch spots, charging $18 for avocado toast. Metropolitan Avenue had Polish bakeries and Puerto Rican restaurants and stores that served the people who actually lived there, not artisanal coffee shops and vintage furniture stores catering to people who moved to Williamsburg specifically because they heard it was becoming trendy. The music venues and art spaces that made Williamsburg culturally important in the early 2000s were in cheap warehouses that artists could afford to rent, DIY shows and gallery openings, and a creative scene that happened because real estate was accessible, and then landlords realized they could charge more and kicked everyone out to build condos. The McCarran Park pool, before they renovated it, was abandoned and covered in graffiti, and locals would hang out there even though it was closed, and when they fixed it up and turned it into a concert venue, it stopped being for the neighborhood and started being for people who don't live there. The Hasidic community on the south side and the Puerto Rican community on the north side, who'd been there for decades, suddenly couldn't afford their own neighborhood because transplants were willing to pay triple the rent, and longtime residents got displaced by people who wanted to live somewhere authentic without realizing their presence destroyed that authenticity. The speed of the change was insane. You could leave Williamsburg for 5 years and come back to find your entire block unrecognizable. The bodega you grew up going to replaced by a juice bar. Your friend's building torn down for luxury apartments.